Welcome to Sac Taff. My name's Rosalind Roberts, and I'll be sharing with you for the next few minutes. I don't know, just my journey of the week, and not only that, a little bit of history of me being an author, and I've been sharing before, and then I'll read a little bit more of my book, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, because that's basically what this podcast is about. It's called Sac Taff because it's to promote my first book, which I'm going to bring out. I'm going to say soon, but if I do, most probably will be the first part that I bring out soon, because I'm really excited about it since I've started reading the book a couple of weeks ago. It's like, no, I've got to get on with it. So I'm really excited about that. But also, it's mainly about my first book, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, and I've got to find the other volume of the book where it's got an image on the cover, even though the image needs to be updated. This was my very first copy that I brought out, and this was in 1997. Yeah, so and I brought this one. As you can see, it says part one, and there's two more parts until I actually managed to put the whole book together. So it's called Sac and then Taff, because obviously every now and then I reflect upon the book that I'm promoting now, Taffy How. And I'm excited about both because I've got a second part of Taffy How that I also want to bring out as well. So I'm just so excited. I really am. Hopefully you're enjoying what I'm sharing with you. So basically, what was I going to share with you? I wrote it down. It's like, where is it? Where's the information? So a few years ago, I was promoting my work, and it was my first book, Taffy How, in a local market, and it was absolutely fantastic. I didn't realise that it was a community. I didn't realise that until I was there, and that different people, I've shared before, different people used to come in different days, and it used to be consistent. Like on a Monday, there'd be a certain amount of people that would come in from a particular community. On a Tuesday, it would be like that. It was really, really encouraging seeing this. And not only that, I stayed in the market for over 2.5 years, or for about 2.5 years. But I'm still in contact with some people. Some of the people I met in the market are supporting me, with my events that I do. And sometimes I visit the market because there's still people there that I still, that I more or less was working alongside. And then, if I decide to, say like I want to take a walk in the area that, I live in, sometimes I meet people that will stop me and say hello, and, don't you have your unit in the market anymore? What are you doing now? And so it's really, really, really encouraging. It really is. So there was a time where I was at my stall or unit. It was a unit. And this particular gentleman decided to, I would normally call people to the table, and I must have called him to the table to say, would you like to look at my book, Taffy How? And so he looked at the book and said, he didn't really want to buy a copy, and to me didn't seem like there was a lot of interest there. But then he said that I can help you raise up funding online. And I'm like, oh, okay, like that. And with a little bit of interest there. And then basically when people sometimes tell me something at the time, it seems like a good idea. And then when they go, sometimes I have time, sometimes I reflect upon the conversation, and I sort of think, look, he wasn't really interested in my book. So why would he want to help me to make to raise funding online? Why would he want to? I personally don't think that's the best person to help with me raising any funding. I personally don't think so. That's how I felt. So the next day, it could have been the next day or the day after, what have you, he came back thinking I was going to call him over and say, yeah, when can we get started? Because, I really want to raise some money online, towards me promoting and publishing and what have you, my book, and so on and so forth. And I didn't call him. And I saw him sort of standing near my table but sort of looking in the other direction, or looking at another unit, thinking I was going to call him because I could sort of see him slightly turning towards my side. And I just thought, no, leave it like that. And I didn't. And he didn't even come to me and say, oh, you know, he didn't. You know, I just didn't feel like that was the right person to, because I think that if you've got a project, especially if you've been working on something for a long time and it means a lot to you, even if you haven't, it still should mean a lot to you if you've started something. You know, if you're going to engage with people to help you, it has to be people that are integral and they're really, really interested in what you're doing, and you know, they just really want to support you. You can see it. But you know, if you're going to be around someone who, you know, they're not really interested in what you're doing, you know, you're not picking up on anything positive that's coming, you know, from their, you know, from their speech or anything like that, I don't see the point. I really don't see the point. Yeah, so yeah, I think I made the right decision anyway. Then what else was I going to talk? I was going to talk to you about something else. Yeah, there was another person that came along to my table, and for some reason it was getting on in the day, right? And I decided to get busy behind my, you know, with things behind me in my unit. For some reason, I just didn't really want to talk to this. I didn't really want to talk to this person because I just felt like, look, my main item here is my book. I just felt like the person, I just don't know, sometimes I can pick up on things. I just felt like this person wasn't interested really in the book. So, you know, I'm just getting busy now. Let me just sort myself out. But he waited and waited and waited until I got up and turned around and spoke to him. So basically, I shared about what I was doing, and he was raising money up for something or another, and I told him what I was doing, and he, you know, must have looked at the book. And then he was saying that he knows of an organisation, but they're based in New York, and what he can do, they can fly you over to New York, and you know, they pay for your flight and they pay for your accommodation, all of that. He was going on like this and that, and it was taking up time, right? It was taking up time, like 15 minutes or what have you. You know what? You know, time means money, because I could be talking to a lot of people that are walking by, but you know, we were chatting and everything like that. And then I'm not sure if he gave me some details or something like that, and I must have gone over the details later on in the evening, and it didn't seem like what he was saying was correct. Or maybe he said he was going to come back and give me the details. I don't know what it is, but basically it wasn't the case. You know, I never received any information as regards to an invitation to New York, whereby my flight was going to be paid for and my accommodation was going to be paid for, and so I never received it. And then what happened was he did come back into the market, and by this time my unit had been moved further along near the back of the market, and I remember him turning up and you know, saying something to my daughter about how he's raising up money, and I said, just don't listen to him, because what he's saying is not true. And he walked off because he must have remembered me. But yeah, you know, sometimes these things happen, isn't it? Sometimes these things happen. So but anyway, let me see what I can read. So this is one of the joys of being able to promote my work, the way I get to speak to a lot of different people from different backgrounds. You get people that are very inspirational, very encouraging. They've got a lot of positive input to give you, and sometimes they know people who can help you. Sometimes they've got ideas, they've got constructive criticism. It is all good, but every now and then you are going to meet someone where, you know, they're just basically wasting your time, and some of the things that they're saying isn't completely true. But luckily, it's not as many. Majority of the time, I've met people that have been beneficial You know, the conversation's been beneficial, it's been interesting, and they've been encouraging, and so on and so forth. Yeah, so I know that I started off by reading the prologue, and then I read a little bit of chapter one. Yeah, so the prologue was a little bit about my background and my mother and father and my siblings and so on and so forth. And then chapter one showed you how I was as a child now, and very much sort of like mm, very much because there's a time where I'm in in the classroom, sort of near behind the teacher or what have you, and my mind just goes and I start singing a little bit, and then the teacher just asks me to stop singing, and then the children, because then all the noise just, it felt like, disappeared, and I was just there in the moment just singing, not loudly, you know. And then the teacher just said, you know, will you stop singing, please? I remember that, I remember it. So I was very much a child then, that I could just basically cut off what was around me and just focus what was going on within my mind, and I can do that from to this day. I can do that. I can still do that sometimes if I feel I need to. Do you know? I'm a very sociable person, very sociable, but I was sharing that sometimes I can be in a group and it feels like they don't want to involve me, and you try to be involved, and it's like, you can see that they don't want you involved every now and then. Not, it happens every now and then. I'm like, no problem, because I've got enough going on in my mind, and I'm not going to sort of like dwell on anything negative. I'll figure something out that's, you know, positive to think about. And then some of the people that are trying to leave me out, it's like, nah, she wasn't supposed to do that, because she looks a little bit too content, and then they try to involve me in the conversation, or like it happened a few months ago where there was only a few people there I've shared, and it felt like they wanted to leave me out. So I thought, fair enough, I'll put one earphone in and one out, because I've got enough to listen to online. I've got enough going on. And when they saw that was happening, someone tried to talk to me, and I didn't hear them straight away, and I heard, oh, she's in her own little world. So like it was like like a joke or something. It was like, you know. Anyway, okay. So, what can I share about now? And then basically with Rebecca Barrack, who's the main character, and she basically had two main friends that she grew up with in primary school. One of the names was Laura, and the other one was Mandy. Mandy was really my main best friend. Laura was her sister, and so I got on really, really well with them. And gone are the days where, because I remember first thing in the morning, if we were on half term, I remember my parents bought me a really lovely turquoise bike, really nice bike, and Mandy really liked, for my birthday. Mandy really liked it, and so when it was her birthday, and I think it was around about June, she asked her parents for the same bike. And then when it was Laura's birthday, and her birthday might have been in July, it was close knit, you know. She also asked her parents for the same bike, so we all had the same bike. And I remember leaving home in the morning to go to their home, and they were only like 10-15 minutes away, and with my bike around about maybe like 9:30 a.m. And I remember, you know, those were the days where it's like you go out, you meet your friends, and you're out for most of the day and come home about 6 o'clock, and you don't think anything of it. But nowadays, you know, if your child is leaving home, you probably call them about 3 times in the day or something to make sure they're okay, and then make sure they're making their way home, and all of this sort of thing. It's a completely different world, isn't it? Yeah, so it's got here. Yeah, there was a time where I was at their home, and I'll read a little bit. It says, on one occasion, Rebecca, Mandy and Laura spent most of the day playing in the park before returning at 4 o'clock at Mandy's house. And Mandy made some sandwiches in the kitchen, which she brought into the front room with 3 glasses of cold milk, where Laura and Rebecca were lounging on the sofa watching television. All 3 ate and drank in silence until Rebecca and Mandy began to feel restless. Mandy got up from the armchair, put the plate and glasses on the tray, and took them into the kitchen. Laura and Rebecca stayed in the front room, listening to the sounds of washing up. Then suddenly things went quiet. At first, the girls ignored the silence, but after 10 minutes, they became inquisitive. Slowly, they got up from the sofa and tiptoed across the carpet to the door. They peeped around the corner frame and saw that the staircase door was wide open and the light was on, so they crept towards it. "Boo!" said Laura. Mandy jumped up, almost hysterically, looking with wide, astonished eyes. Rebecca wanted to laugh, but then she caught Mandy's look and wondered what had caused such a reaction. "What are you looking at?" asked Laura. "You're not going to believe what I've got," said an amazed Mandy. "What?" asked Laura, with growing excitement. Mandy handed her sister the magazine. Rebecca moved closer, peering over Laura's shoulder. "I don't believe this." "What are they doing?" Laura asked. "Don't ask me," said Mandy. Rebecca became shy and withdrawn, but continued looking at the picture. "Hold on a minute," said Mandy. She took the magazine, looked at the front cover, and read out the title. And basically, it was a adult magazine, and you know, the three children remained silent, and the magazine was returned to its place because they knew that they shouldn't really be looking at it. And as I've said there, Rebecca sort of became withdrawn because she knew that, you know, she shouldn't really be looking at stuff like that. So the magazine was returned to its place, and the girls turned their minds to a game more in their own age group. In fact, more exciting to them. Throughout their close friendship, and the topic of the magazine and what they had discovered about their bodies was never mentioned again, although subconsciously perhaps a few new found awareness came to Rebecca. So basically they knew they shouldn't have been looking at it, put the magazine back, and they never spoke about it again, and that was it. Obviously you're aware of you know, more about your body, but it was like, no, they knew that they shouldn't. And I'm glad that they had that sort of maturity about them. You know, they had that maturity about them. So this is the bit with the birthdays. It says the girls valued one another. Rebecca and Mandy were definitely best friends, while Laura was Rebecca's second best friend. It was coming up to Rebecca's 10th birthday in May 1977, and she asked her parents for a bicycle. She was given the bike of her dreams, a clean-cut blue machine. I like the way I've written that. That added a feeling of momentum and light to her life, but it did. It was like really lovely. It was a lovely colour, and it was exciting to be able to ride my bike now, you know. She was given the bike of her dreams. I've just said that, haven't I? Yeah, it had white highlights on the handlebars, body and wheels. 2 weeks later, it was Mandy's birthday, and without hesitation, she knew exactly what she wanted: a bicycle of the same make, style and colour as Rebecca's. Her dream came true also. Towards the end of June, feeling left out, Laura too asked her parents for a bicycle. When they agreed, she chose the same machine as Rebecca and Mandy. And I like the way that I remembered their birthdays, you know. And I'm so grateful that I wrote this book quite a few years ago, because no way would I remember now. I knew it was near enough my birthday, Mandy's, but I thought Laura's was around about June, July-ish. So the summer was an enjoyable one. The girls now had exactly the same bikes and would go out together with their new transport, raising the eyes of passers-by. Their happy confidence was infectious. I love that. Their happy confidence at the age of 10 was infectious. Absolutely fantastic. Where are we now? That's where we are now. Where are we? Yeah, I'm here. And people cast friendly smiles in their direction. Much of their time was now spent riding their bikes to different parks and locations not far from home. The summer days took on a fast pace, and before they knew it, it was time to go back to school. They knew they were now at secondary school age. Mandy and Laura's parents had decided to move home, so when Rebecca went to her new school, it was without her friends. And reading that, I've just felt a little, my stomach's gone a bit like nervous. Yeah, now I'm reading it. It's like, whoa, I'm gonna mark it in with a pencil. Whoa, I'm gonna be going to school without my best friends. I can feel it in my stomach while I read that, you know. I'm like, whoa, too close to home. Hey, too close to home. Let me mark it down, because it's quite significant about when I talk about their confidence was infectious. that's something to hold on to because it's significant. And also, here Rebecca went to a new school and it was without her friends. I'm like feeling a bit ill talking about it. Actually, it's like, oh, my stomach. Yeah. However, they still managed to keep in touch by letter and telephone. Rebecca attended Norbury Manor High School for Girls, which was in walking distance from her home along Melfort Road. Whoa, all these roads. If you're familiar with South London, you'll probably know these roads are popular, and there was soon a marked change in her personality and behaviour. So that's when things began to change. There was no longer a shy little girl, and she began to develop her. She began to develop her own full-rounded personality. The children in her peer group were mystified by the noticeable and sudden change in her. Rebecca became an extrovert and enjoyed sharing jokes with those around her. Friends thought she was showing off, but that was not the case. And I get that now, whereby I can get a little bit happy. Either people think what's wrong with her, or I don't know about now showing off, but I feel like some people can't relate to it. If I'm like really, really happy, I've got nothing to extreme to be happy about. The way I look at it, I'm healthy. Do you know what I mean? I'm doing what I want, things that I enjoy doing, and I'm just basically expressing that I'm feeling happy. And some people are like, what is wrong with her? Yeah, I mean, I don't get it as much now, but I used to. And maybe because I don't let it bother me now. I mean, that's who I am. Yeah, so Rebecca herself could not explain the transformation. All she knew was that a new person had suddenly emerged. Being surrounded by older people was less intimidating than before, and she felt comfortable at school. Which, okay, I don't remember. Really? Yeah. The relaxed feeling gave her the courage to express a hidden personality that had submerged. Although at first she felt that she was an outsider looking in on more sophisticated girls who shared some historic knowledge into which she had not been invited, she found herself part of one of the most popular groups in the school. Girls with the knowledge and understanding of important contemporary issues such as the latest music, dance, craze and fashion. So you've got an idea of a little bit of my early childhood, moving on from infancy to through to primary and now secondary school. And I like what I've written, I really do like what I've written. And yeah, I've read up to here because I don't want to read, I don't want to read from page to page. I'm just trying to give you an insight of the book, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime. And then obviously when the book comes out, hopefully you might want to buy a copy, yeah, so I feel I'll leave it at that point for now. But it's good. I'm feeling encouraged by it, definitely. And I'm always saying, it's only because I'm trying to set up something at the moment, and there's a lot of stuff I've had to do online, so I haven't really had the time to sit down and focus on this. But I'm going to have to make time to do it, because we're in the month of May, aren't we? So I would say I'm going to aim sort of maybe like by the end of May, if I can get, writing and start writing part 2 Taffy Howe, and I'll also start writing this book as well, just sort of segregate the time so I'm working on both, which is really encouraging. I've got other ideas as well. I've got an idea for 3 children's books. I've done the illustrations for 1 and more or less got the storyline there, but I think it takes time and it's money as well, putting these things together. But all in good time, and hopefully with the book that I've got the illustrations from, I'll have that out. Maybe just as I did in a very basic way, like I've put together this book, A Sacrifice of a Lifetime, before I move on and better it. But at least I'll have the children's book out. But we just have to wait and see. But so I hope that you've enjoyed listening to a little bit more of A Sacrifice of a Lifetime. I've got more to share. We're slowly getting there with the book. And if you want to follow me online, you can do. On Instagram, it's Roslyn1325. I'm also on Facebook as Roslyn Roberts, on X, formerly known as Twitter. And on Twitter, on X, let me read it out, because I always sort of like, on Twitter, it's at author_RR Roberts. And then my YouTube is Welcome Roslyn Roberts, and of course my podcast, Sac Taff. But I'll speak to you again, and like I say, I hope that you're enjoying, what I'm reading from A Sacrifice of a Lifetime. Take care. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.